Hi, my name's Paul Grogan, and in this gaming rules video I'm going to be teaching you how to play Keyper, designed by Richard Breese and published by R&D Games, who commissioned this video to be created. In the game of Keyper, 2 to 4 players will be using their team of skilled workers, known as Keeples, over 4 seasons to develop their farm and village, hold seasonal fairs and trade with the local boatmen. The different coloured Keeples have different specialities. Forest workers are better at collecting logs, farmers are better at growing wheat, and so on. Keeples are also more productive when joined by another, meaning that 2 players can work together for their mutual benefit. Your workforce will change during the game, based on the country board that you get at the end of each season. The player who best manages their team and creates the most productive village wins the game. Place 1 country board per player in the middle of the table. Each country board should be folded so that the spring icon is visible, and the first board should show the 1-player icon, the second board the 2-player icon, and so on. So, if playing a 3-player game, you would use these 3 boards. You can lay out the boards however you like, either not touching, touching, in a line, or some other formation. They are separate boards for all purposes. A quick note about the folding boards. Learning how they work can take a little bit of getting used to, and during setup it may take you a couple of minutes to find the right configuration you need. My advice is to locate the icon showing the number of players first, and then find the one with the spring icon. Separate out the 21 spring country tiles, which are the ones with the spring icon on them, and put them in the bag. Mix the bag up and draw out 8 tiles, placing them near the country boards. Ensure that the side showing the building cost is face up. Place all of the other country tiles and the winter fair tiles to one side for now. They'll come into the game in the summer. Take the 6 boat tiles, shuffle them and choose 4 at random, placing them beside the country boards. Each one should show the side with the spring icon on it. Sort out the wooden components into separate piles nearby. The cubes are raw materials, clay, logs and rocks. And the octagonal pieces are finished goods, bricks, wood and stone. The wheat-shaped pieces, believe it or not, are wheat. There are 8 types of meeples: chickens, pigs, goats, deer, sheep, boars, horses and cows. And 4 types of gems. Each player takes a player board in their chosen colour and a keep tile which is placed just to the side. The keep tile is 2-sided. For spring, you won't need the side showing the keep, so I recommend flipping it to the other side, which is a summary of your options. Take the keeper in your player colour and place it in the keep area on your player board. And you also start the game with a team of 8 keeples. 1 boat person, 1 clay worker, 1 farmer, 1 forest worker, 1 miner, 1 quarry worker and 2 generalists. In a 2-player game, each player starts the game with 1 extra keeple. See the rulebook for more details on this. Place the scoring markers in your colour on the 0 spaces at the top of your player board. These are used to record points gained during the game from shipping. Take 12 home tiles, these are the ones marked with the outline of the building being in your player colour, and place them all face up near your player board, showing the side with the build cost. You start the game with 1 type of each finished good. Place them on your player board here. Separate out the spring, summer and autumn fair tiles into 3 shuffled stacks. Each player takes 1 fair tile from each stack and places it face down on the matching fairground space of their player board. You can and should look at your own fair tiles because these give you something to aim for during the game, but you should keep them secret from the other players. Once you've done all of the setup, choose a start player at random and then you're ready to begin. On your turn, you must perform one of 4 actions which are summarised on the back of your keep tile. I'm actually going to explain action 2 first, because this is the one you're most likely to take at the start of the game, and it allows me to explain some of the key mechanisms. You can play a keeple of any colour onto any of the empty field spaces on any of the country boards. This allows you to perform the action of that space once. For example, this space is collecting logs, and this space is collecting sheep. Many of the spaces have a coloured border, and if you use a keeple of a matching colour, you get to perform the action twice instead. So if I send my clay worker here, I would collect 2 clay instead of 1. It's very important to remember that you can place any coloured keeple onto any space in the board, but if there is a colour match, you get to perform the action twice instead of once. And also note that the white keeples are generalists, and they match against any colour. Now, let's take a look at some of the actions. A lot of the spaces are very simple to explain. These are spaces that allow you to collect clay, logs and rocks, and there are spaces that allow you to collect different types of animals, sheep here and pigs here. And note that in spring, not all animals are available yet, and this will change over the course of the game. This space allows you to convert logs into wood, once for each action you have. So if I placed a forest worker on here, I get 2 actions because there's a colour match, so I could convert up to 2 logs into 2 wood. This space allows you to get wheat, which you place on your player board here. I'll explain wheat later on. This space allows you to take one of the spring country tiles and add it to your own set of buildings ready to build. Note that there is no colour border around this space, so you just get 1 action no matter which type of keeple you use. After any of these tiles are taken, you replenish back to 8 from the bag. There are other actions which I'll explain later on, for example the building space, where you get to move tiles from the side of your board either onto your farm or your village. But for now, that's the basics covered. If you place a keeple on a space, you get to do the action once, or if there is a colour match with the space, twice. However, there is something very important that you must do before you carry out your action, and that is you must invite the other players to join you. The player to your left has the first opportunity to join you, and if they decline, play passes to the next player who also gets the option, and so on. Nobody is forced to join you, but there are advantages to do so. If someone joins you, they must join with a keeple of the same colour as yours, or white. When a keeple is joined, both keeples get to perform 1 additional action. So here, if you joined me on this space, because there is a colour match, we both get to do the action 3 times, collecting 3 sheep each, which seems pretty good. As another example, if I went here to collect pigs, but I used my miner, then another player could join me with a miner, or a white keeple, and we would both get 2 pigs, because there was no colour match. There are also advantages to running out of your own keeples early, which is another reason for joining someone. I'll cover this in more detail later on. Going back to this space here, remember that there is no coloured border, which means if you go there alone, you get 1 action. But if someone joins you, both of you get to do the action twice, and you will both get 2 tiles from the ones on display. In this case, you would pick first, the other player would then take 2, and you would get the 4th pick. So, just to recap, if you place a keeple on a space on a country board, you get to perform the action once, or twice if there is a colour match, and if somebody joins you, you get to perform the action 1 additional time. Another option you have is to place a keeple onto a space that already contains 1 keeple. That is, a space where nobody decided to join when the first keeple was placed. And you can only do this on a space that contains 1 keeple. If the space has 2 keeples, then it's already full. And also, when you join an existing keeple, the joining rules are the same, in that you can only join with a keeple of the same colour or white. And if you do join an existing keeple as your action, you get to perform the action once, or twice if there was a colour match. But you can also choose to lay down the existing keeple, making them work a second time, to do the action 1 additional time. Because the arrival of a fellow keeple makes the existing one so happy, they work again for a second time. So let's go over these 2 differences in joining. If I choose to place my farmer here to collect wheat, and you join me immediately, we both get 3 wheat. However, if you choose not to join me on my turn, I only get 2 wheat. And then on your turn, if you place a farmer on the space and lie the existing keeple down, you get 3 wheat. So in the second case, you got 3 wheat and I only got 2, but you had to use your turn to do so. And placing keeples on somebody else's turn allows you to run out of them faster, and I've mentioned that that will be useful later on. So now that we've covered the rules on joining, let's go back and cover some of the other actions. This space allows you to build one of your available tiles for each action you have. Your tiles that you can build are next to your player board. Everyone starts with the same set of 12, but you can get more during the game, as I mentioned earlier. The tiles are in 2 types: farm tiles, which are built on the green spaces of your player board, and village tiles, which are built on the brown spaces of your board. The cost to build a tile is shown in the top left, and it's a combination of raw materials, the cubes, and the finished goods, the octagonal cylinders. You'll notice some of the icons are white. A white cube means that you can use a cube of any type. And this is where the wheat comes in, because wheat can replace a white icon, either a white cube or a white octagonal cylinder. But wheat cannot replace a coloured icon. So, to build this carpenter, for example, costs 1 wood and then 1 other finished good or wheat. When you build a tile, place it on any plot of your player board. All of the tiles and what they do are fully explained in the back of the rulebook, but any time you see a coin icon with a number in it, this means victory points which are counted at the end of the game. For example, the sheep shelter is 1 point for each sheep in it at the end of the game, up to a maximum of 4. And whilst I'm here, it's worth mentioning that all tiles on your board that score for resources only score a maximum of 4 times. There is another space that you can use to build tiles, and that is the discount build space. The differences are that this space has no coloured border, so it's only ever 1 build or 2 if you are joined. But you do get a discount of 1 resource from the building, to a minimum cost of 1. So you could use it, for example, to build the stonemason for just 1 finished good, but you don't get any discount on the cowshed. And since we're talking about the buildings, there is a way in the game that you can upgrade them to make them better. One way to do so is by using this action space. The upgrade action allows you to flip over one of your previously built farm or village tiles to the other side. The cost to do this is printed on your player board. It's 1 raw material of any type, or wheat, to upgrade a farm tile, and 1 finished good of any type, or wheat, to upgrade a village tile. And the upgraded version of a tile is usually just a better version of the other side. For example, the upgraded sheep shelter is now worth 2 points per sheep instead of 1. I've almost covered all of the action spaces available on the Spring Country boards. There is just a couple left. This space allows you to convert any 1 cube into 2 of any cubes. So if you went there with a miner and nobody followed, you would get to do 2 actions, as there's a colour match. So you could convert some rocks into logs and clay, and then use your second action to convert the clay into some clay and rocks. And finally, each country board comes with a double sea space, and this is where I get to explain the boats. When you choose one of these spaces, take one of the available boats for that season, place it on the space, and then place your keeper on it. For the purpose of colour matching, this counts as a blue space. So if I play my blue keeper here, I get to do 2 actions, or 3 if you join me. Each action allows you to do one of 2 things. Either take one of the resources depicted on the tile from the supply, or sell one of your existing resources for 2 points as shown on the tile. You cannot both take and sell the same resource on the same action. So, for example, if I had 3 boat actions, I could take 2 pigs and sell 1 log. Points that you gain from shipping are recorded on your shipping track, and only points from shipping are recorded here. All other points are recorded at the end of the game. So now that we've looked at all of the basic actions available, I'm now going to explain one of the other options that you have available to you on your turn, which is placing your keeper. On your turn, instead of placing a keeper, you can place your keeper. And in fact, you must do this before the end of the season. But where and when you place it is a very important decision. You simply place your keeper onto any empty keep space of a country board. This claims that country board, and at the end of the season, the keepers on it will return to you and become part of your workforce for the next season. Claiming a country board does not stop you or any of the other players from placing keepers on it, but of course if another player places a keeper on that board, they do so with the knowledge that you will get that keeper at the end of the season. Now, something else happens when you place your keeper on the board, but this doesn't happen in spring, so I'll explain it later on. Another option available to you on your turn is to place one of your keepers onto a plot on your own player board. And when you do this, you have 3 options. First, you can use a keeper to build one of your own tiles. Select the tile, pay the building cost, and then place a keeper on the tile. Second, if you already have a tile on your board, you can place a keeper on it, pay the upgrade cost, and then upgrade the tile. The advantage of using one of your keepers on your own player board is that you guarantee that you will get that keeper back at the end of the season. The disadvantage is that you only get to do the action once and nobody can join you. The third option is for the buildings where you see the red Keyper outline. These buildings have an effect when you activate them, and you do that by placing a Keyper on it. For example, if I had previously built the carpenter, then I could place one of my Keypers on it to activate it and convert one log into one wood. You can also join an existing Keyper on your own player board, and this works in a similar way to joining an existing Keyper on one of the country boards, in that you can lay down the existing Keyper to get them to work again. So in this case, my placing a second Keyper on the carpenter and laying down the existing one means that I get to do the action twice more. Okay, so now it gets really interesting. If on your turn you have no Keepers to place and you've already placed your Keyper, then another option becomes available to you. You can lay down any Keepers either on your own player board or the country board that you claimed with your Keyper. Laying down a Keyper on your own player board allows them to work a second time. So I could lay down this Keyper to use the scrapyard tile again. Or I could lay this one down to upgrade this tile. You can also lay down Keepers on the country board that you have claimed. If there is a single Keyper there, you can lay them down to perform the action once or twice if there is a colour match. If there are two Keepers on the space, you may choose to lay one of them down to do the action once or twice if there's a colour match, or lay both of them down to do the action twice or 3 times if there's a colour match. So I said earlier on that it was a good idea to run out of your Keepers early. Well, this is because every time it gets round to your turn and you have nothing to place, then you can lay down your existing Keepers and get them to work a second time. Play continues clockwise around the table until all players have placed all of their pieces on the board. And the last player to place all of their pieces on the board triggers the end of the season, and all other players get one more turn to perform a laydown action. At the end of the first season, Spring, each player reveals their Spring Fair tile. Remember, you are allowed to look at your own fair tiles whenever you want. If you have the resources shown on the tile, you leave the tile face up on the board, and it will be worth 2 points at the end of the game. And note that you just need to have the resources shown on the tile, you don't need to spend them. So in this case, I have a pig and a log, so I leave the tile face up. If you don't have the resources, you simply discard the tile. After the fair, you then need to check your farm to ensure that all animals have somewhere to sleep. Each farm tile can store a maximum of 4 animals of the type or types shown on them, and any extra ones wander off back to the general supply. Each player then takes back their Keyper and all Keepers that were on the country board that they claimed, placing them in the keep area of their player board along with any Keepers that they used on their own player board. And also, you take the country board that you claimed. All country tiles that were on display at the end of a season get discarded. And at the end of Spring, place all of the other tiles that you set aside during setup into the bag and mix them up. And then it's time to start the next season. At the start of each new season, certain steps are performed. 8 new country tiles are drawn from the bag and placed on the table. The 6 boat tiles are shuffled and 4 drawn at random and placed on the table just like you did in setup. Remember to make sure that the icon of each boat matches the current season, in this case summer. Then, at this point, you adjust your country board to decide which fields will be available for the next season. The rules for this are as follows. The board must be a 4x4 grid, and it must show the keep with the icon according to the current season. The icons showing the number of players are not needed after the game setup, so you can ignore them now. Once all players have selected the configuration of the board they want, they are all placed in the middle of the playing area. The player who triggered the end of the previous season takes the first turn in the new season. When you first play Keyper, you may not be sure what field you should be selecting, but what you should definitely do is have a look at the boat tiles first and then choose the fields according to your strategy. For example, if you really need a horse in summer, and let's be honest, who doesn't, then you should select an action space that's available on your country board that allows you to get horses. And finally, if you have more than 8 Keepers, or 9 in a 2-player game, you must move any exceeding your allowance and place them on your keep tile. Now, I said earlier on that when you place your keeper on the board, something else happens, but it couldn't happen in Spring. Well, this is it. When you play your keeper and claim a country board, if you have any keepers on your keep tile, you lay them down now to get the bonus shown on the tile. Black, grey, orange or white keepers get you any 1 cube, and brown, blue, green or white keepers get you a horse, cow, sheep or pig. As the seasons progress, new action spaces become available. For example, boars can enter the game in summer. And in autumn and winter, the mines open up, allowing you to gain valuable gems. New tiles enter the game each season, providing you with additional opportunities to score points. The ring maker, for example, will give you 4 points at the end of the game for each set of a gold and a ruby that you make into a ring, up to a maximum of 4 rings. And if you upgrade it, you can add an emerald to the ring too, making each ring worth 6 points. That's 24 points if you have 4 gold, 4 rubies and 4 emeralds at the end of the game made into 4 nice rings. Any scoring tile like this consumes the resources used to generate points, so you cannot use the same resources for 2 different scoring tiles at the end of the game. There are also tiles which give you points at the end of the game based on the number of fields of that type on the country board that you claim at the end of the game, such as the log cabin, which is worth 1 point for each brown bordered field, or for keepers you have of specific colours at the end of the game, such as the bricklayer, which is 1 point for each clay worker you have. Another thing that can appear after spring are these additional fair tiles. Now, in the rulebook, these tiles are called winter fair tiles, but my recommendation is not to call them that and to call them multi-season tiles instead. I'm going to refer to them as multi-season tiles in this video, but as I say, in the rulebook, they're called winter fair tiles. And the reason why I'm suggesting this change is that these are fairs that can be completed in any season, not just winter. So calling them winter fair tiles is a little bit confusing. To take a multi-season fair tile, you use the same space as you would for taking any of the other tiles. And when you take the tile, you place it to the left of your board along with your other tiles. And once you have a multi-season fair tile, you can complete it once per game at the end of any of the seasons. If you hold the fair at the end of summer, use this side. If you hold it at the end of autumn, you can use either this side or this side. And if you hold it at the end of winter, you can only use this side. Basically, use the side showing the icon for the current season. So, once you have one of these multi-season fair tiles, you can flip it over however many times you want and complete either side depending on the current season. So, for example, I decide not to hold this fair in summer in the hope that I can acquire a ruby and a gold in autumn. You can see here small icons indicating what's on the other side, so you don't have to keep flipping it over. And let's say that at the end of autumn I don't manage to do that. So now I have a choice. Do I hold the fair in autumn using this side of the tile, meaning I will get 4 points at the end of the game, or do I wait until winter when I can only use this side of the tile, but then I would need all 4 resources? You can display more than one fair at the end of each season, including the original fair tiles that you were dealt at the start of the game. But note that you cannot display the same resource twice at 2 different fairs on the same season. After the winter season ends, the game comes to an end. You add together the points on your shipping track, for your farm tiles, your village tiles, and finally any fairs that you held. Each resource scoring tile can only be scored a maximum of 4 times, and it consumes the resources that it uses to score those points, so that you cannot use the same resources on 2 different scoring tiles. Many of the tiles score points for different things. The pavements, for example, score for each village tile in the same row and column as the pavements, including itself. The Oast House scores points if your farm is full of tiles. And this side of the dock scores you 6 points if you scored at least 20 from shipping. And the player with the most points at the end of the game has the most successful village in the lands of Keydom and also wins the game. I hope you found this video useful in learning how to play Keyper. For more of my videos, please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you've got any questions about the game, please put them in the comments below. Until next time, take care and thanks for watching.